I tell you, I love nothing more than watching Trump's campaign kind of just go down like a pile of flaming poop. It's amazing and it's beautiful to watch. So, he started off pretty strong. I'm going to give it to the guy. I mean, he's against a corpse known as Joe Biden, right? So, and he's also an old guy, but he's not apparently as old as Joe. So, here's the thing. So, Trump started off pretty strong, and at the debate, I remember when we were watching the debate and Trump's face was like,
eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare,
what's going on over there? And he kept looking over at Joe Biden because Joe Biden couldn't put two sentences together, and Trump's not used to that. At that point, I was feeling pretty bad. I'm like, oh my God, Trump's gonna win because he has it together more than Biden. And that's a low bar. That's a low bar. Already a low bar. That bar just kept getting lower.
Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin.
And lower.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president.
As each time Joe Biden went out in public and spoke to people and bungled it over and over and over again, people were feeling pretty desperate at that point. Like, oh my God, Trump's gonna win. How are we gonna do this? How are we gonna survive? So people started talking online about we need to start growing our own food and blah, 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 right? And that's an important thing to think about because he wants to deport 20 million people out of the country, right? So there's a bunch of people that are in this country that benefits us immensely in multiple ways, right? We have enough room. We have enough room. And the more people we let into this country, the more economic and stability this country will actually have, not less. So Donald Trump lies about that all the time, right? He says that they're coming in from insane asylums and prisons. That's not true. People are fleeing bad economic and in violent situations with their children most of the time, so their children can grow up, can actually have a choice to grow up and not have to join a local gang or be a prostitute or be some kind of thug that they don't want their child to be. That's why people come. And also, economically, we've caused that as Americans. We have caused a lot of strife south of the border, down to South America, through Central America, and into South America. We have done all kinds of crazy shit in the name of getting resources like oil. Anyway, I digress. Back to Trump. It was feeling pretty dire for a really long time.
It's been 84 years.
Got a new little spark because people were like, you need to drop out, Joe. Joe needs to drop out. That took off. And it was in mainstream media, it was in independent media, it was online, it was on Twitter. I will dead name that bitch till the end of time.
Increased number of voters think Joe Biden shouldn't be running. Oh my God. Guys, I don't know anything about politics. Is this good? Is it good? I think we can get 100% of the American voters to say that Biden doesn't have the mental health and cognitive health to serve as president.
How damaging is this to Biden? What's the campaign strategy here?
Well, it's really damaging. I mean, you see it from some of the president's closest and most important allies outside of public office, editorial writers saying that this was a disaster of a debate performance, and that if Biden continues on like this, it will lead inevitably to a Donald Trump return to the White House.
And John, you've been telling us all about the text messages you've been receiving. There are calls for the Democratic Party to replace Biden on that ticket. Even the New York Times, though, the editorial board there says that Biden should drop out of the race.
All the places, right? All the places people are like, he needs to drop the fuck out. Drop the fuck out because we want a chance at at saving whatever little semblance of democracy we do have. And I'm one of those people. I think it'd be better to save what we have and try to do as much as we can to push forward locally, because we aren't very community oriented anymore the way we used to be in the past. Now we're very individualistic, and that's actually a hindrance to us. So, and that's exactly what, big business and big government want us to have. Because if we're too busy fighting with each other, we aren't looking at the true problems, right? But then Donald Trump was almost assassinated. And then I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. He is now becoming, he was already, some people were already making him into the new Jesus, which I think is weird. It's like, okay, I'm atheist, right? That's okay. I don't believe in religion of any kind. No one's religion makes sense to me in my mind. But if you believe in religion, I'm not shitting on it. It's fine. You can do whatever you want because that's your choice, right? I like the freedom of choice. You have the freedom of choice to be religious or not be religious. I don't care. But when people are fanatical about their religion and they want to oppress everyone with their religion that does not want to be oppressed by it, that's a problem. And so then, and of course, the whole false idol, right? He is a false idol. Like, don't worship him. And so after he was shot, everyone's like, oh, we need to bring the rhetoric down and blah, blah, blah. And it was like a few days before the RNC, not DNC, that's coming up next week. It was a few days before the RNC, and, they went on to that. And of course, the rhetoric was not better at the RNC. So I watched a lot of it, and it was dicey, right? I mean, like Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke, but she's such a horrible speaker.
They promised normalcy and gave us Transgender Visibility Day on Easter Sunday. Your tax dollars to secure Ukraine's borders. But they tell us the border wall is too expensive.
He picked Vance for his VP. Vance has historically low poll numbers. He is the worst polling vice presidential candidate ever.
Does J.D. Vance help Trump in those states?
Not according to the favorable ratings. His favorable rating is below 30%. His unfavorable rating is up above 40%. That creates a net favorability rating of minus 16 points. He does worse in his home region at minus 16 points than he does in the average of all polls, which is a minus 5-point net favorability rating. So the people who know him best, the region that knows him best, they like him even less.
It's amazing. Like, Trump picked Vance based on his children, Eric and Junior. The right hates J.D. Vance. And I'm like, I love that for Trump. But by the time it got for Trump to speak, and he, was somewhat on his teleprompter for a while, but then he obviously went off the rails and had the longest RNC speech that any Republican candidate has ever had. Because, of course, go big or go home, right? We want Joe Biden the people on the left are feeling pretty lousy, right? The people who want Joe Biden to drop out hasn't dropped out yet. And it looks like, Trump is probably going to win. Like, at that point, had there been an election, he would have won at that moment. And that would have been really detrimental to a lot of different people in this country and to people in Palestine and to pretty much everyone around the world, because America affects the entire planet, which sucks for the entire planet when America keeps going further and further to the right, and it's not a good thing. Since Kamala Harris did pick Tim Walz, I do believe we have an opportunity to push her further to the left, because Tim Walz is further to the left than she is. Now, I'm not saying he's like a progressive, but compared to her, he is. But then, Joe Biden drops the fuck out of the race. And it looks like Kamala Harris is going to replace him, right? She was on the ticket so she can get the war chest, because she was on the ticket. People that voted for Biden were also voting for her. So this narrative that she got no votes from no people in the primary is a sack of flaming shit, because she did in fact get by proxy those votes as well, because they weren't just voting for Joe Biden, they were voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, for better or for worse. That's how that works. So anyway, she becomes the nominee, and people are like, okay, how's she going to be on Gaza? How's she going to be blah, 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 because there's a bunch of chatter on the left, of course. And for even immediately, so she went immediately to town, calling the delegates and tried to basically whip up the delegates to support her instead of Joe Biden, right? Because he relinquished them, but they could pick whoever they wanted at that point. So they did. They said, you know what? We're going to go with you, right? It looks like the donors, that's who they wanted, and because we have money in politics, that's how our system works. It sucks, and we should work hard at local levels to get money out of politics, and hopefully we can get it to the federal level. But we can't try to get it out of the federal level without trying to get it out of our local elections first, and that's going to be a big and crucial step, in my opinion. If you have a better one, let me know. She's calling all the delegates, right? There's these Zoom calls. Black women for Kamala Harris, and then white women, and then white guys, and some of that was a little cringy. So, she's getting a monumental amount of support right out of the gate. She raises millions and millions, like hundreds of millions of dollars within a matter of a couple days. And it's actually pretty, insane how much money she raised on small dollar donations as well. So honestly, she could just kind of push away some big donors like AIPAC, which she totally should. Do not accept more money from AIPAC, even though I know she might. But the thing is, we need to get AIPAC out of our election system. It's a foreign government that's having control over our government elections, which is not okay, and we need to stop that. I know we do that in other countries. We also need to stop that. Okay, I'm not condoning it either way. But then, it's the Veep stakes. And so the Veep stakes, and people are talking. She's still gaining ground during the Veep stakes, right? And then she picks Tim Walz. But the night before she picks Tim Walz, we think she's going to pick Josh Shapiro. Now, Josh Shapiro has a lot of skeletons in his closet. Like he ruled that a woman that got stabbed 20 times was a suicide, and some of the stabs were in the back of her head.
And I am joined now by Ellen's parents, Josh and Sandra Greenberg. Thank you both for coming on tonight. I've followed your story for a long time, and my heart goes out to you. And this is obviously a very big development. Josh, what are you hoping comes of this? I mean, ultimately, are you hoping for police to reopen the investigation?
Yes. We've only asked for, I think, 3 things. Number one, change it from suicide to a homicide or undecided. Have an unbiased investigation led by an unbiased leader. That's all we've wanted. That's all the suits are about. We've met every obstacle that the city of Philadelphia could come up with, for even things that don't exist anymore. It's just. They gave somebody high immunity. Did you ever watch Mel Brooks movies?
Yes.
Anxiety?
Yeah.
Sounds like the same thing, doesn't it?
Listen, I mean, even to outsiders, I think everybody who sees that diagram of all the ways that she was stabbed cannot understand how you would do that to yourself. It just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And you guys have been digging, Sandy, you all have been doing investigations for years now. I mean, what have you come to, Sandy? I mean, did police just look the other way? Have you all been able to figure out who you think may have done this?
First of all, the police, the district attorney, the attorney general, the medical examiners all used every tool in the toolbox that they could to deflect, defer, and keep us out of their way. Not give us answers, not do due diligence and give our daughter justice.
I'm sorry. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not a law enforcement person. I am not a doctor. I'm not even a coroner. I don't even play any of those on TV. However, I do know from just thinking about it, right? Just using a little critical thought. How realistic is that someone's going to stab themselves 20 times committing suicide? That's not, you hear people that, may slash something, but it's like, it's usually, it's not usually in the back of your head. It's weird. Okay, so we got that. Then he's not taking sexual harassment seriously in his administration. So they got that too. So that's a little ick. But two of those things are very icky about him. Also, he is a fan of school choice, which is not a good thing and is in many states already, including my state, Washington, which really limits, it's pushing for that is trying to eliminate public school, which I think is wrong and will make it so poor people will be not able to go to school, which is not okay. So I was not a fan of that. And I feel like if she was going to pick Josh Shapiro, she'd be in the same place that Biden was, because and also on top of it, he's very Zionist. And I know she is too, but I don't think she's as Zionist as Biden was. Biden is like, he's balls deep Zionist, that's the kind of guy he is right now. And I'm like, it's just crazy. So I'm really hoping we can push her, that Tim Walz will also help push her, because he seems to be a lot more empathetic towards the uncommitted movement, for protesters. She's not had great messaging on protesters, but hopefully that gets better over time as well, because, school is about to start again and colleges are going to start again. And you better believe it, there's going to be protesting and there's going to be probably encampments again, like there was last year. So I fully expect that to happen, and that will help bring Gaza back to the forefront of the conversation, and that will push her further and further to the left, hopefully. And she has proven that she has been listening to us, at least a little bit, which is better than it has been in many, many, many years. So we have to understand what we're looking at, that it's not the same old. It is a little different, and we do have some paths forward in this way. Anyway, but then Trump doesn't know what to do with himself, right? So he is stumbling over words and he's not talking well. He has this really bad interview with the National Association of Black Journalists, and it's just, he bungles it so poorly.
Your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition.
Sir,
of
I'm
that.
asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you would.
I just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a Black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So, I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly, very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black.
And there's so much good things to attack Trump on. We can attack Trump on Project 2025, even though he has tried his best to push himself away from that. We know that's his agenda. Several people in his former cabinet were part of that project. That project has been going on since Reagan. So it's not a new project. So it's been going on for a really long time. However, their project is, the rhetoric in their project is really, really bad. They just want to be, this is basically, in a nutshell, their entire project. White, heterosexual, the nuclear family, right? Mom, dad, children, and that's it, right? Back to the 1950s. And I think he switched sides because he saw an opportunity on the right. You can exploit them. He is exploiting everyone who follows him. That's exactly what he does. He exploits anyone that's in his cabinet. He will push anyone under the bus. He has zero loyalty to anybody except for himself. He is the only person, that is the only person he's looking out for, is himself. His wife hates him. I mean, I don't blame her. I mean, I think at this point, it's a waiting game for her. She's like, when are you going to die, dude? Come on. She's waiting to inherit. And I don't blame her. At this, she's earned it. Melania has earned it. May she be happy after he's passed. It's just really interesting how much it's just imploded, this campaign. And I also love how Vance has said some really shocking things in the past, like, the whole cat lady thing. We've gone over that a few times. But also, like, parents should get more votes than non-parent people. You can't punish people who, didn't want children, because not everyone wants them, and that's okay. We do not want people who don't want children to have children. Then Vance, and then the weird thing. Okay, yeah, I'm hopping around because that's how my brain works. Anyway, so, and then Vance, he cannot handle being called weird. And Kamala Harris called them weird a couple years ago, like I think back in 2019. And it didn't really stick when she did it. But Tim Walz kind of, I don't know if he was doing it at a strategic level. If he was, sir, you got my respect. If not, still you got my respect. Because it stuck and they hate it. And it was funny. Recently someone asked Trump, oh, what do you think about this weird? And he goes, oh, that's not me, that's JD.
Something that Governor Walz has called you and Donald Trump, and that is weird.
Sure.
And it is taken off. The New York Times reports that when Donald Trump was asked about it, he said, not me, they're talking about JD.
Well, certainly they've levied that charge against me more than anybody else, but I think that it drives home how they're trying to distract from their own policy failures. I mean, look, this is fundamentally schoolyard bully stuff. They can accuse me of whatever they want to accuse me of. As Harry S. Truman once said, if you can't take the heat, stay out of the kitchen. And I'm doing this because I think that me being vice president will help improve people's lives. So I accept their attacks, but I think that it is a little bit of projection, Dana. If you think about just take a couple of days ago. Tim Walz gives this big speech. He's been announced as the VP nominee. And I remember when I had just been announced as the VP nominee, I gave my big speech and I saw my wife and I gave her a big hug and a kiss because I love my wife and I think that's what a normal person does. Tim Walz gave his wife a nice, firm Midwestern handshake and then tried to sort of awkwardly correct for it. So I think that what it is two people, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who aren't comfortable in their own skin because they aren't comfortable with their policy positions for the American people. And so they're name calling instead of actually telling the American people how they're going to make their lives better. I think that's weird, Dana, but look, they can call me whatever they want to.
You're saying Tim Walz doesn't have affection for his wife? I don't even understand that.
I said that he acted weird, which he did, on a national stage in front of his wife and in front of millions of Americans who presumably were watching at home. And I think that it's projection, Dana.
Yeah. Because he can't defend it. He can't defend it. I mean, this vile attack on Tim Walz's military record, he misspoke one time, and they're taking that and blowing it out of context. Applied for retirement before that even became a thing for the National Guard to go to Iraq. The National Guard isn't usually used in that way. It's a domestic military strategy. It's for defense, not for offense, right? That's what the Army is for. That is what the Navy is for. That is what the Marines are for. And that is what the Air Force is for, not the National Guard. And that's what he was a part of, right? But the National Guard still has to understand how to do everything that an offensive military has to do in a defensive strategy. I'm not a military person. If you are, and I'm saying the wrong terms, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to give me a little bit of grace. But the thing is, it really does bother them. The weird thing bothers them, and I love that. I love it so much because they really are weird. And it's kind of like it's making him small. It makes Trump look really small and weak and just old. And like he he's not shiny and new anymore. And there's a lot of Republicans on the right who are unhappy about his performance because he keeps making deportation the center of their campaign.
Administration, I will terminate every open border policy of the Biden administration, and we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history because we have no choice. We have no choice.
Which is really gross because I think there's enough people on the right that understand that if there was that many people being deported, it would make our agricultural system collapse. Because guess what? We don't want to do agriculture. We just don't want to do it. So we actually do need people migrating from other places that are willing to do the jobs that we aren't willing to do. Full stop. And also, they need to pay those people better. But that also won't get people to do agriculture because people just don't want to be out in the sun and do that. I get that. I don't want to do it. Do you want to do it? Because if you want to do it, then go ahead and apply to be in some kind of agriculture. I do not. And I'd rather have people who need an economic opportunity because it came from another place. Like, majority of the people who come over the border are not joining welfare. I'll tell you that. You know, there are some refugee status. They might, give them, help for a few months, but then they get jobs and then they can, they let them have gainful employment. And then they go off of that system, right? I remember, because my husband is an immigrant from England. I know it sounds weird to even say that, but it's interesting, the documents I had to sign and he had to sign, that I remember signing a document, and I have somewhere, that basically I was his guarantor for him to be in America as long as he's not a citizen. So even if we were to get divorced, my income would always be used against him using any kind of public funds of any kind.
Earlier in the week, Republican Mayor John Giles and other Republican leaders in Arizona held a press conference, Republicans for Harris, Arizona. This was an incredible press conference. I want to share it with you right now. Play the clip.
And I think the time has come for us as Arizona Republicans to admit the obvious and to start saying the quiet part out loud, which is that our party's nominee is not qualified for office, and that we need to vote for the adult in the room, and that is Kamala Harris.
It is time to put partisan loyalties aside and vote for the leadership that will truly represent the people we want to be in the eyes of the world. Character matters.
And we've been sharing stories like this across the nation. Here's a story right here of a Trump voter, Elizabeth, previously voted for Trump, no longer voting for him this time. Here, play this clip.
My name is Elizabeth. I live in Texas. I voted for Trump the first time. For the Republican Party to move forward and to believe that, all of this is okay, everything, all the criminal action, believing that the vote was stolen. It even sickens me more. I will never, ever vote for another Republican in my life until they come on and rebuke Trump and everything that has gone on. It just disgusts me. I would vote for Mickey Mouse before I voted for Trump. He definitely wants to be a dictator. He is a coward. And I just can't believe that all of his lies, that people do not see that. I just don't understand it. So I will not be voting for Trump. I will vote for Biden, and I will not vote for another Republican in my life, no matter what, until the Republican Party stands up and talks against him. It is appalling.
Trump is just circling the drain at this point. He's just circling the drain in a campaign way, right? And it's just great. It's great to watch, and I hope this is how his campaign continues to go. I hope they continue to bang on about policies that are not popular and people do not want, on the right even don't want, because that makes it really much easier for Kamala Harris to win, and then we can have a better foot forward trying to get a better democracy, because we don't have a good democracy. We do have one, but it's not great, and we need a better one, right? And I believe we could get to a better place if we all work together to get to that better place by holding our officials accountable. Like if they say they're going to give us this and they don't give us this, then we need to be like, hey, what you doing? And if you're not going to do it, well, we're going to vote you out next time, and we're going to get someone in that we really, truly want. But in order to really do that, we need ranked choice voting, which is a very important thing. So look in your local state, see if there's an opportunity for you to join a group for ranked choice voting. I don't know what that entails. I joined one group, but I haven't looked into it too much, but I will be looking into that more, because we need to make that a thing. Right? There are some cities I know, or maybe there's a state, I think Alaska's local elections, I think, are ranked choice voting now. So look into that, and look into how we can make every state ranked choice voting, at least for local elections. And then that will make a bigger impact at a federal level if we have better representation on a local level. That makes any sense. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below about his campaign just going to complete and utter shit over the last 3 weeks, which has been amazing to watch, and I cannot wait for it to continue to go that direction, because I can't see, unless there's a broad regional war in the Middle East, like with Iran or Lebanon, or with both. I don't know how that's going to change things, but I feel like that would change things in a fundamental way if that were to happen. I hope it doesn't happen, but because, no one wants more war. We don't need more war. And if that regional war were to break out, Americans will be pulled into that, boots on the ground, pulled into that, to fight on Israel's side, which is not great. And I do not want that. And I really hope, if that were to be the case, that we would do some mass protesting at that point, like a lot of us, like all of us, because we do not need to send our troops in to fight a war for another country that is just trying to wipe out a bunch of Muslims. And I don't care why it's not okay. I don't care how they treat their women. I don't care how they treat gay and LGBTQ people. That is not a reason to kill people en masse. It's because they don't look at the world the way you do. It'll never be okay. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about what's been happening. And I hope you have a great day, night, weekend whenever you're watching. Subscribe.